Dr. Rachel, thank you very much for connecting and taking your time to talk about futuristic art and luxury perspective, especially with the European market and then going global as well. So, from my perspective as a future connoisseur and the futuristic art and gallery organization, I think it's very important to understand your perspective and how we can and what are the, for example, what are the changes you have seen, especially post COVID? What are the things you have seen in art and luxury, especially within the artist aspect of it? How the industry is evolving, especially, and my focus is more towards young artisans, especially your young graduates, how they are feeling it, how they are looking at it, and what are the top maybe two, three things you have seen that it has changed a bit, which was not there, which you've seen a little bit new things emerging, which you think are a very positive note. Dr. Rachel.
Okay, thank you, Shazad, for inviting me to have this discussion. I think these are really important questions, especially right now. And where would I begin? First of all, I'll explain I'm also a maker. So my background is ceramics. So my practice is in making and making objects. And so I'm coming to this probably from both an education and a practice background. What we've noticed and what I've noticed specifically with students and graduates on art schools in the UK and probably in Europe, in the last 5 years, we can't ignore the fact that we had a pandemic. So, let's foreground that has had an impact on what is happening and how people are responding to making, responding to ideas of experience, responding to a change in what values we now hold. We did see a real anxiety amongst students and graduates during that period of we've lost skills. They took this away from us. What did we lose through this period? And although what we did through that period was very, actually, a lot of ingenuity, a lot of making still continuing, but just in different spaces, a lot of new materials being discovered and engaged with. What I've found from the best of our students and our graduates is that they develop this new level of skills, quite a lot in the digital space, because that's how we had to interact and that's how we're interacting today. So there was this new level of engagement with the world that perhaps our students and graduates didn't have before, because we made an object, we made a painting, we put it in an exhibition, people came to see it. The very traditional way that even I used to do. But now we've moved into a space of, okay, what am I creating? Why am I creating it? Who will see it and how will they engage with it? It may not always be within the physical environment now, because we have this digital space, but we also now have this global access. What's really exciting through that period and what I'm seeing is you're not just reaching the 5 people that came to see a piece or the 100 people that came to your opening of an event. You can potentially reach anybody in the world with the work that you're making, which there's a dichotomy there, because now you can access anybody, but we still want to retain quality. And what are we trying to access in that space? So how do you think about how you position your work, how you talk about your work? And what I found more discussions are happening, not just, and I suppose this really relates to luxury. If we talk about luxury in many ways, it's the process has become very important. It's luxury of being able to understand how a piece of work is made rather than just seeing the finished outcome. So I can see more and more people being engaged with the thought process of a maker or an artist. What's that process? What's that thinking? What materials are they using? How much time are they engaging with this? Because another luxury, as we all understand, is time. If somebody said to you, what do you want more of? What's a luxury to you? I think quite a few of us would say time, whether that's time to do or make or engage. So I'm seeing quite a lot of that happening as we're opening up ideas of that very special way of accessing an artist through their practice or a designer. It's not just the thing that goes on the wall or the object that sits on a plinth. It is
Mm,
how, why, how can I understand this more? And I think that's, for me, has become more of a luxury, if I could use that term in that context.
I think this is very interesting what you just said. No, this is because you know, I think I think you will agree to this. Art is a luxury by itself. Like, first first to understand this, I think that's a luxury. To understand art is a luxury by itself for any personality or any person. I think this is a luxury by itself. But understanding, comprehending it, comprehending the different facets of art itself is a luxury to my understanding. And then obviously, but how luxury is converting into art in the last 50, 20, 30 years, last, few years, where luxury embraces art and it becomes an art pieces. And I'm obviously not talking about the commercial aspect of it, where luxury got ruined with the push marketing and the commercialization and commoditization of the luxury aspect of it in the last 40, 50 years especially. So I'm not obviously talking about that. I'm talking about where the real luxury embracing the art. And how do you see the convergence? And how first, I think I have two questions in that. And I was thinking about this, in fact, last week. How do you see the convergence of art and luxuries happening now? And how do you see the future of this? How luxury and art as a different, I would say, set of institutions are converging, and how they're supporting or converging at how what is the kind of intersections you see in the future between art and luxury in your perspective?
Ooh, that's a big question, Shazad, and you might be more of an expert on that than I am. But I do, yeah, I think we have moved very clearly away from the traditional notion of luxury, and what most people would understand that to mean, whether that is a logo or an emblem or a particular show. And I do see, if we really think about, I can see the convergence of art and luxury becoming more about sort of broader issues,
Mm,
actually. And it's back to your comment about understanding it. There will be a moment, I do believe, where we will think of a luxurious item as something that has a positive both is beautiful, well crafted, well made, well informed, but also has perhaps an impact on the world or on people or culture. How do we use luxury to tell people stories? How do we use luxury through materials to have an impact on the environment, for example? There's some really good examples of designers and artists and makers who are discovering, inventing new materials which will have no or positive impact on the world, but are creating the most beautiful
mm,
objects. And they're probably the only person in the world doing that right now. But the way that they're thinking through that and the way they're making you as a viewer, as an owner, the luxury of that is being able to think a bit more
mm,
deeply about, okay, I'm going to purchase this perhaps or collect it or support it in some way, but I also get the benefit of a connoisseur thinking, oh, well, this is actually, I'm loving what I'm engaging with, but this is quite radical in the way that it will affect the environment or affect people or positively. Because I think at the, in very broad terms, luxury can also be seen as quite damaging
mm.
to people and environment. We have so many horror stories about supply chains or
Yeah.
materials or waste. And I think the real luxury will be, okay, this is where the positive impact
Mm,
can come, because hopefully there's investment, there's thought, there's care. So I'd really like to see that shift. I can see it
mm,
emerging, and I can see those discussions and those tensions. I think that moment, those tensions and discomfort are the places we need to be in, because
mm,
that's the only way we're going to change together. So, and in terms of it, the education context, our students are pushing us and
mm,
pushing us
mm,
for this more and more.
mm. No, this is yeah. I think you're right on the dot there, where because what you just said about where the horror stories of luxury, I don't even consider them luxury anymore. That's a very commercial aspect of business, and it's a brutal business. So
Mm.
I think that's, and now I think now the consumer and the connoisseurs are well aware. They are not as, I would say, ignorant as it used to be 15, 20, 30 years back. Now they
Yeah.
understand everything. In the last few weeks, in fact, I was writing something, or I was talking to someone, and I said, Like, there was a conversation happening about the definition of luxury, and I said immediately, I said, luxury is a mirror. So it's basically, it's not about the object, it's about you. It's about basically how you see it. Like the way you just said about, is it beautiful or not? It is sustainable or not? Is it contributing to something or not? Is it something very unique or not? But that it's like a beauty. It's in the eyes of the beholder. It's not in the object. To me, I think the luxuries also is the mirror. It's what luxury to me could be totally different for you. And
Mm.
what luxury for you could be nothing for me. So it's basically about and that thought process stems out of personalization and experience to expressionism, which I keep on promoting and talking about, where the shift has happened from experience of the product or service to an expressionism, where my understanding is the future of luxury sits. So
Yeah.
when you see, when with the perspective of that luxury is a mirror, I think it definitely touches strongly with the art aspect of it, where the artistic aspect of it comes very, I would say, vibrant in that sense, because then luxury luxury is not being confined to a commercial or the value or even the scarcity aspect of it, not the
Mm.
exclusivity even. So it's more about personalities, humans, our thought process, and what is our preferences in life.
I couldn't agree more. I think seeing luxury as a mirror that holds a mirror up to ourselves about what we truly value or who we truly are. Art, we have many different definitions of art as well, Shazad, I suppose. But one of the values I see in art is it can explain ourselves. It can help us explain ourselves through a medium that maybe we can articulate verbally or in other ways. We see something in art
Hmm.
that helps us understand ourselves. So I suppose it goes both ways. Then you'll see something beautiful, only you will see as beautiful, but also you'll look at something or engage with something that helps you understand yourself
Hmm. Hmm.
in other ways. So I think that also is a real luxury, but maybe the connection is how do we help people understand that rather than just sort of, oh, that's a beautiful object, or that's a well-made object, or that's an expensive object or
Yeah.
painting, or it's okay, how do you help? Maybe part of all of this process is helping educate other
Yeah.
people about, okay, there
Hmm.
are ways and means where you can engage with art
Yeah.
that will open your eyes to things that you didn't even understand, and it shouldn't be a privilege for only a few people to be able to understand art. So how do we broaden that term of luxury? And I really like the idea that it's not for the few and it's not about scarcity. If luxury was for all, how would you think about that in different ways?
Yeah, no, but because see, to my understanding, if we agree or if we understand for some time as well, that we say that okay, luxury is a mirror and it's more personalized, it's more expressionism, it's more about individualism rather than the commercial aspect of it or all of that. So if we do that, that means then luxury is basically more about who you are rather than what you adapt or what you carry or what you possess. So
Yeah.
so the power shifts from the object to a person.
Mm.
So the power shifts from the brand to the connoisseur. The
Yeah.
power shift from brand and marketing narrative to my personal thought process and expressions and my emotions as a human.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating because if you shift that power dynamic, then it's you take it away from a brand telling you who you are to
Absolutely, absolutely.
to
That's
you
exactly what I said.
understanding who you are through the, and that really shifts the power dynamic in a way that is really exciting actually.
Because to me, I think it's already happening. It's already happening. I have seen, and you interact with so many young people. I interact on a daily basis with young founders, young graduates. They have stopped creating and associating their personality to the brand, rather than they are looking for, does this product or service or anything resonate with my thought process or not?
Yeah.
So they're not asking for validation from an idle product, rather than validating from a breathing, thinking, heart and mind to see and give validation to the product or service, whether it suits me or not.
Yeah, you shouldn't be asking permission of an object to be you.
But
With
but
a,
but the reality is it was happening for the last 60, 70
yeah,
years.
yeah,
So if I wear some brand or something, then, oh, I'm this.
mm,
And you know how people were categorized with Mercedes and BMW, Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Remember? And there was a list of personality characteristics of that person if you follow this
mm,
route or if you follow that route.
mm,
But I think that was, to my understanding, was a marketing gimmick, and marketers
yeah,
have created this with the commercial reasons, obviously.
mm, mm,
But now with the information we had, I think it's going really it's shifting the entire base of that art and luxury. I want to move now to another very interesting topic, and that's what I really want to understand. You were saying that you were doing it. Are you creating art pieces now also? Like, what is your recent art piece you have created, and what was the thought behind it? So I think it will be very, very interesting to understand, because you are at the helm of, talking to so many young people. You are going through all of that, but what impacts it has on your thought process as a curator as well. So I would love to know, what is your thought process, and what do you think? What are the things you consider now when you are creating, or when you're curating, in fact, something very artistic?
I think whenever I'm creating myself, I'm thinking I work in more of a narrative. So I like to create stories with the objects that I make, but I'm also more and more conscious of the materials I'm using and how they tell a story, and how you can engage with them. So quite a bit of my work might start with something I've heard, or something I've read, which becomes a metaphor for a life that's lived. And then I clash it with an object, so there's text and shoes, for example.
Mm.
How do you create this narrative about this person? So it's back to, it might not be about me. A lot of it is very personal, but how do people see themselves through these objects, or this disconnect between perhaps text or pattern
Hmm.
and material? So that's been a continual process for me. I also make my own paper clay, so I'm very engaged in, okay, how do I tell a story of material through that?
Hmm.
If I'm curating in terms of bringing works together, I like that tension, that discomfort. How does that piece of work speak to that? They certainly won't be from the same artist, but how can I tell a story through because curation is about really about storytelling and bringing to the viewer to something. So I really like thinking about lived experience. How do I bring different types of artists together that traditionally may not be seen, may not have a voice, may not have a majority voice in a room. So how do you help engage those stories that other? It's a bit like holding the mirror up. How can you bring people to recognize that lived experience through that work?
Yeah.
So I think also in terms of if you're creating an exhibition in a physical space, you must think about those interactions. If you're creating in a digital space, that's a very kind of different way of thinking, because we can click, we
Yeah.
can move around a
Yeah.
screen in a very different way than we move around a physical room.
Yeah.
So you also have to help set the conditions for the viewer to help understand what they might be looking at, and how they can navigate their way through. Here's not the ideal route, but here's a route that you might explore, but you're welcome to explore it in the way that you want as well, because it's a very individual response, as you said, Shazad. You can't force people
No.
to find the story. I think that's the worst thing that you can do, but you can
Yeah.
try and set conditions that make it exciting,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
curiosity is there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. In fact, what you just said, maybe you just read my mind, because I was talking my next. I think it was an interesting direction we got our conversation into. I was talking about, obviously, when you talk about the materials talking, or the art pieces talking to each other, and how it fits. And I'm sure you believe in the energy or the vibration an art piece can give it to a human person, and how it impacts. And I have seen people having art pieces, paintings, sculptures into their homes, offices, or anywhere else where they really believe, and I believe too, that there is an energy which is a positive energy, there is a radiation coming through that. Um, that holds very strong value, I think, nowadays when you talk about the art. And then it elevates with the energy aspect of it to the more luxurious aspect when you talk about a little bit more exclusivity
Mhm.
and all that. So, in physical terms, yes, you just mentioned about the digital aspect of it. So, how do you see will we lose this totally, the energy part when we go digital, or you think it still resonate because it's picture at the end of the day. We'll maybe looking at our phone or a tab or a laptop.
Yeah, I think that's a critical question, Shazad. But what I would first start with is we have never met in real life, but I can feel your energy, and hopefully you can feel mine across the screen. So
Absolutely.
it's not beyond the bounds that these things can happen. And you certainly meet people on a screen that you think, oh, I don't never want to meet them again. Yeah.
It
So
happened to me. It happened to me last week.
So I think we're sentient human beings that we've got more than one sense to us. So I think energy comes through in many different ways. So I think though in terms of the digital environment, it's about how do you design that in a way that is both engaging, enticing. Even the basics of your image quality is good. That keeps people there. Where's the storytelling? How do you and not every piece of art will speak to everybody, so
Mm.
you can't guarantee who's going to feel the energy. So I'm probably not as concerned about that as I would have been 5 years ago before we all moved. Um,
That way.
yeah. And I think also it opens up opportunities for me to look at work that exists in the global south or in North America,
Yeah.
or even down the street that I might not see, but I'll see it online.
Yeah.
So I think there's a really exciting way of being able to reach new audiences and new
Yeah.
people who are going to come to that work on the screen with a completely different perspective from the maker or the artist, from a
Mm.
very different lived experience. So I'm not as concerned, I think, as I might have been previously. And this is coming from an object maker who likes to engage with
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
But I'm definitely,
That's
I
a big
think when
industry.
you think about interactions we have with people, I think we're much better at it now.
Oh, you put it so well. You put it so well, and you know how you put that in. It's like you just like you're on the dot with that. You nail the head. In fact, so it because I think this is it's when we're talking about that, forget about we seeing each other like this. Imagine when we have not even cell phone, like the landline phones. And when you have a lot of emotions going on, even on that landline phones, where you're not even looking at each other.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the voice, it's the
Mhm.
passion, it's the emotion in the voice transferred from thousands of miles, and it sometimes brings sadness, joy, tears, laughter to your face, and your entire body gets basically, I would say, impacted by the voice. So you are absolutely correct. And now we
Yeah.
are seeing each other. So now,
Yeah.
and if we show the object or a art piece, even online, I think it will, as you rightly said, I'm not concerned as well. I think, but you put it in a very, I would say, I think I haven't heard so clearly and with so much clarity what you did right now.
Oh, thank you. Thank
No, this is amazing what you just said because I think I would not imagine if somebody else can explain that part with the emotional aspect and the energy aspect of a art piece
you.
on a digital medium rather than the actual. So it evaporates so many, I would say, barriers. It basically crosses so many barriers and it connects globally, and the reach goes like unlimited. It's infinite kind of a reach because you can express this. And at the same time, what you just said at the end of what you were saying last time, it also depends on you. Just, yes, as a curator, you give the conditions, you give the environment, you give the ambience with the message you want to convey. But
Mm.
again, it rests with the viewer how he or she will feel about it. What kind of energy, resonance, impact, emotion they will get from that. It's totally dependent on them. It got nothing to do with the curator and even the art piece.
Yeah, it's very much a two-way, engagement. It has to be, and you might be looking at a screen, you might be very comfortable at home, you might be sitting on the tube, you might be, who knows where you are, but those conditions around you at that moment are also impacting how you're thinking and feeling about the thing that you're seeing, which you might feel different next day because you're somewhere different or you've had a
Yeah.
different experience in your life. So I think that it's just so exciting that I don't think we fully grasp
No.
the potential of it yet, because we're still looking at it as a deficit model rather than something that we build upon,
Hmm, hmm, hmm. In fact, we're looking at I think we're looking at it more kind of a convenience rather than opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think,
And I think that is the next stage for everybody is, and I want to say the term globalization in a very positive way rather than,
absolutely,
that,
absolutely.
that anybody in the world who chooses to could have access to
Yeah,
this piece of
yeah,
art,
yeah,
and feel something
yeah.
and have a mirror brought up
You
to
know,
them.
I think what you just said earlier also, I think it gives me a lot of what do you call it, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of support, a lot of, I would say, appreciation towards my thoughts. And we did talk about that. I'm thinking of creating an online futuristic art gallery project. And obviously there were so many thoughts coming into my mind, but I think this conversation answers a lot about that as well.
It's good.
So I think this is something very, very interesting.
Mm.
Dr. Rachel, you want to put some last note before we end this conversation?
I just like to say that these conversations are so valuable. I think definitely for me, I find them really valuable, Shazad, and I hope anybody who listens to this or watches it will find something in it as well, because we don't talk about this enough. I think we're not honest enough about what luxury should mean, and
Hmm.
we're really not honest about how access to art should be for everybody,
Hmm.
and the luxury of that is being able to have access and understanding and
Absolutely.
of it. So
Very well
I
said.
think these conversations are really important. Yeah.
No, no, thank you very much again. And thank you very much for your time. I think we had an amazing conversation and there is a lot to take from it. In fact,
Mhm.
forget about everyone else. Trust me, I will watch it two, three times. And Dr. Rachel, thank you very much. Thanks a
No,
lot.
thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.